you.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Welcome to the Planning Committee. I'm Anne Thompson. I chair the meeting. First of all, can I remind you of some domestic arrangements? It's important that all participants conduct themselves in an appropriate manner. Please put your mobile phones on silent. Participants must ensure their microphones are muted through the meeting unless you wish to speak, and please do not interrupt any other speakers. Members are reminded they should not have alternative communications open. If members do lose connection in the meeting, we will adjourn till we can for up to 10 minutes to get them back in. I would like to remind everyone that this meeting is being broadcast live to the internet. The whole of the meeting will be recorded except where there are confidential or exempt items. To vote on matters, I will confirm the recommendation, request a mover and a seconder. I will then hand over to Democratic Services to take a vote. Okay, if that's all clear. Thank you. Right, the first item is apologies for absence, so I'll hand over to Paula, the Democratic Services Officer. Thank you, Paula.
Thanks, Chair. Today we've got apologies from Councillor Hall, and we've got Councillor Ronson substituting, and apologies from Councillor Seward with Councillor Morgan substituting. So if we just do a roll call of members. Councillor Anne Thompson.
Present.
Colin Thompson.
Present.
Councillor Aswad.
Present.
Burley.
Present.
Edwards.
Present.
Gorn.
Present.
Husband.
Present.
McEwen.
Present.
Mooney.
Present.
Knott.
Present.
Morgan.
Present.
And Ronson.
Present.
Thank you. And the officers, please respond with your full name and job title. Jason.
Jason Hipkiss, Development Services Manager.
Maureen.
Maureen Smith, Principal Planning Officer.
And Charles.
Charles Wilson, Principal Planning Officer.
Thank you. Chair, we've also got someone coming to speak today on the 102 Abbey Road application. It's Nicola Baker speaking on behalf of the applicant, so I'll let her into the meeting once you start that item. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Paula. Right, any urgent items? I haven't received any. Any delegation to move anything? Everything's delegated and nobody's asked to move anything. Admission of public and press, everything's in part 1. Declarations of interest. Are there any interest to declare by members of the committee?
Yes, and just the Cumbria County Council as usual.
Same as me. Same for me, Anne.
Right, okay. Anybody else got anything? No. Do you agree I confirm the minutes of the 16th of February?
Agreed.
Agreed.
Thank you. Public participation, we have got a speaker on 102 Abbey Road, so they will be let into the meeting when we get to that bit. Planning applications. Delegated approvals. Do you agree to note the delegated approvals?
Agreed.
Agreed.
Right, so we go on to the application. So the first one we're going to do, where we have a speaker, is 102 Abbey Road. There's a change of use and there's listed building consent, so we'll take them both together. You have had some different new conditions and a different layout sent to you as extra information, so I'm sure whichever officer is doing it will go through that with you. Okay, Paul, you can let the speaker in now, please. What is it, Nicola Barker?
Baker. There you go, Chair. Nicola's been admitted to the meeting. Chair, you're on mute.
I know, well, I wasn't, and I just hovered. I hovered. My cursor hovered over the mute button, so it switches it on and off. Good afternoon, Nicola. Welcome to the Planning Committee. I'm Anne Thompson. I chair the Planning Committee. You will have received a copy of the public participation protocol which explains the process and informs you that the meeting will be recorded and streamed on YouTube. May I remind you, with regards to addressing the committee, you have 5 minutes to make your representation. Please give your name and address, and this will be the only opportunity you have to speak, but the councillors may want to ask you some questions. Is that okay, love?
That's great, all very clear, thank you.
Right, thanks, love. Right, do you want to start your 5 minutes if everybody mutes? Thank you.
So good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you very much for allowing me to attend and represent Creative Studios Cumbria with regards to 102 Abbey Road. My name is Nicola Baker and Creative Studios Cumbria's address is 104 Abbey Road. So a little bit about us. Creative Studios Cumbria is a charity which provides high quality community space for local community arts groups. We support thousands of disadvantaged local people to learn new skills such as dance and drama and filmmaking and photography. And in doing so, they improve their employability, their confidence, their sense of agency and sort of community cohesion. This project will transform the vacant shell of 102 Abbey Road into a vibrant, creative recovery space for Barrow's residents. It will breathe new life into a once proud Victorian building in the centre of Barrow. The proposal includes on the ground floor a large multi-use space for community classes, workshops, exhibitions and events. And then on the first floor, a smaller versatile workshop and activity spaces for creative charities and micro businesses. 102 Abbey Road has been empty, unused and not attracted any interest for many years. It would be wonderful to bring it back into use and in doing so support thousands of Barovians to gain new skills and to have fun, creative experiences. In terms of our track record then, we feel we have a good track record of sympathetic restoration for public benefit. In 2010, we successfully worked with Barrow Borough Council to renovate and open 104 Abbey Road as an arts centre, which has been full to bursting with creative community activities ever since. Our charity, Creative Studios Cumbria, has raised £95,000 to fund the refurbishment, and these grants are time limited, so we're keen to progress with the project in a timely fashion, so as not to lose any of the funding and also to meet the promises that we've made to funders. A little bit then about the COVID-19 context. Well, clearly, in the shadow of COVID-19, the disadvantaged people that we help need the mental and physical stimulation, escapism, and support that we provide them more than ever. This proposed refurbishment will enable us to reopen services safely and adhere to social distancing regulations. And clearly the building itself is listed, Grade 2 listed, and we're really keen to conserve and celebrate the building's heritage. And our proposal is a sympathetic, light touch refurbishment, which will not negatively impact on any of the building's heritage features. All of the proposed interventions and alterations are entirely reversible and will cause no harm to the significance of the heritage asset. We've worked really closely with an accredited specialist heritage architect preparing our proposal. And we sincerely believe that we've struck the right balance between conserving heritage features whilst also maximising the space and bringing the building back into use for the benefit of all. So in summary then, we'd be delighted if you felt able to support this application. You know, we really are keen to breathe new life into this impressive building, and in doing so, protect the building for the future and also provide a new, vibrant, creative centre for the community. You know, we want 102 Abbey Road to be a place for people to come together, to learn, grow, have some fun and look forward to a brighter future. Thank you very much for listening.
Right, thank you very much. Right, has any of the committee got any questions? No? All right, thank you. Who's doing this one, officers?
It's me, Chair.
Okay, thanks, Maureen.
Good afternoon, everyone. Just a few comments really to add to the reports that have been circulated. The proposal, as Nicola has explained, is a light touch intervention to bring the building back into use rather than a restoration project. The property is a listed building and it also falls within the conservation area, and it's come before committee today because it's a council-owned property. The external alterations purely relate to the replacement of the front door, and there's quite a few more internal alterations that are covered under the listed building application. So in taking the two applications together, the planning permission application relates to the change of use to the art centre facility, the exhibition space and the office space, and the listed building application relates to the internal alterations and the details of the works themselves. Just to update members, since the committee reports were prepared, we've received some amended plans which were circulated in extra information, and the conditions have been updated in accordance with those. And we have received the response from the Highway Authority and the Lead Local Flood Authority, who have raised no objections, and the Environmental Health Officer has raised no objections as well. So the recommendation is that approval be granted in both cases, the listed building and the planning application, in accordance with the conditions in extra information. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Maureen. Bill?
Oops, thank you, Chair. Thank you, Maureen. Yeah, I mean, how can we refuse this? I mean, this is what it's all about. We're wanting to bring Barrow alive and welcome them. And this is a thing to do it and get it up and running. I do welcome it because I think it's bringing young people together, disadvantaged adults as well, and to do their creative stuff. It's progressing their arts and activities and dance, etc., etc. There's a quote here in one of the things from a young lad, Sam, 15. He's a NEET, that's not in education, training or employment. And he says, I look forward to coming here. It's not like anywhere else in Barrow. I'm allowed to creative things instead of rotting away. I think that speaks for itself. So with that, I'm up for the, I move the recommendations, Chair, with the
Thank you.
things.
Anybody else?
I'll second that, Bill.
Anybody else wish to speak? No. Well, can you take a roll call, Paula, please?
Yes, thanks, Chair. So the planning application and listed building consent taken together have been moved by Councillor McEwen and seconded by Councillor Husband. If members can just indicate their voting preference on this, please. So that's Councillor Anne Thompson.
For.
Colin Thompson.
For.
Aswad.
For.
Burley.
For.
Edwards.
For.
Gorn.
For.
Husband.
For.
McEwen.
For.
Mooney.
For.
Morgan.
For.
Knott.
For.
And Ronson.
For.
That's unanimously carried, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Nicola. Your planning application has been approved.
Great, thank you so much, and thank you for your supportive comments.
Right, okay, bye-bye. Paula will let you out now. Bye. Right, so we'll carry on and go on to the first application, which is Lindell. When I find it. A lot of pictures on this one. Let me change my glasses so I can read, not see. Very difficult having wonky eyes. Right, so this is London Road, Lindell. This is just for reserve matters approval following the planning granting. Okay, who's doing this one? Charles, is this you?
This one's oh, the reception's okay. It's bit rough at my
You're
end.
breaking up a bit, Charles.
But committee will be familiar with London Road. It's the road that members will be familiar with London Road. Can you hear me okay?
You're breaking up and you sound bit robotic sometimes, Charles, but you're all right. Keep going.
Right. That's probably my natural voice. But
No, I don't think so.
yes, London Road serves the serves the candle factory, and I think on the right hand side.
Oh, you're
But
breaking up now.
The left side is undeveloped, apart from the house on the corner. Would you like me to come back?
What do you advise,
Would you
Paula?
like me to leave and rejoin?
Yeah, I was just going to suggest that. I don't know whether it will actually improve the connection, but we could always just take a short break while Charles leaves and then tries to rejoin, see if it improves his connection.
That's fine by me. Thank you. Well, we had a bit of a hiccup there because the planning officer that was telling us about the next planning application in London Road, Lindell, had a little blip with his connection, so we couldn't hear him. So anyway, we've got him back again now live, Charles. So
Right,
do you want to carry on with your explanation, and hopefully we'll be able to hear you properly. Thanks, Charles.
Right. Thank you, Chair. Apologies for that. Members will be familiar with London Road. That's the road which leads to the candle factory. And approaching the candle factory on the right-hand side, there are terraced houses. But on the left-hand side, it's fields and gardens. So in other words, it's only developed on one side of the road. Well, the application proposes to develop the left side, the undeveloped side, in the form of 35 dwellings. Now, the site already has planning permission or outline planning permission for 35 dwellings. And the application is what's called Reserved Matters Approval. And this covers 5 things. It covers access, layout, scale, external appearance, and landscaping. And if approved, the reserved matters, combined with the existing outline planning permission would equate to full planning permission. Now, the vehicular access to the site is proposed in one location, and that is onto London Road, opposite the Railway Public House. And what I suggest that we do is, if you have a look at one of the layout plans, probably the landscaping plan is best. And this plan is on page 76. And that's 76 on the electronic page numbering. And if you look at that layout plan, you'll see the access, the proposed access in the top left of the page. But when you look at the layout, you see quite a notable feature is this oval-shaped area of open space and the housing laid out around it. And the applicants have explained that this layout has been influenced by Lindell's character with the village green and the terraced housing, the long streets. So it's seen as a reflection on the character of the village. There are a number of notable features of the scheme. One is that the application proposes car parking for existing residents, and it proposes 23 spaces in 2 car parks, and these are located close to London Road. And the County Council, in their consultation response, refers to this parking as compensatory. And the reason they use that term is because as part of the development, there's likely to be a need for parking restrictions on parts of London Road. And so this parking is partly to offset that that impact and provide additional parking to boot. There's also an additional area of open space next to London Road, which is additional to the oval space, oval-shaped piece of land mentioned before. And again, that is meant for use by the wider community. The scheme has quite high quality materials in that it proposes natural slate, limestone on principal elevations. It's proposing stone walling, estate railing. So it is what I would describe a high spec development, and the designs architect designed specific for the site rather than standard house types. The scheme on the whole looks inwards, which is perhaps a disadvantage. For example, if you look at the layout, the housing backs onto London Road, but you'll see that there is landscaping between the housing and London Road, and between the development and the A590. So that should help soften the development and allow it to fit in with the character of the area. So taking all that on board, the recommendation, Chair, is that permission should be granted. Thank you.
Okay, thanks very much, Charles. I found something very interesting in the extra information that even I haven't seen in all my dinosaur years on the planning committee about getting money from GP surgeries. What's that? What does that mean? What's that? Why can why can a development ask for money from GP surgeries?
Of course, Chair, in this case, we're recommending that we can't actually accommodate the request because it's reserved matters and not the full planning permission. But if it had been an application for planning permission, it's something that we could have considered. We've often asked for financial contributions for road improvements, junction improvements, also as part of taking over play areas, maintenance, and so forth. But this is a new thing that the NHS has started asking for. It's something that we'll need to give some further consideration to. But in terms of this particular application, because it's not a planning application, we can't actually impose this as a requirement, even if we wanted to.
Oh, I just quite strange because I've never ever heard of it before. So I think you should do as a briefing note, maybe, Charles, on it, just so that we're all up to speed with it.
Yes, Chair.
If it's what it's happening now, it's going to come up on every major application we deal with, isn't it?
It is, Chair.
Okay, thanks. Any other members of the committee got anything to say? Sam?
Hello. I'd like to sort of just follow on from what Charles said there. I think he's absolutely right, and this is quite a good development as far as developments normally go. There's a good range of housing. There's mostly detached family homes, but there's some semi-detached. The parking for the existing residents, I think, is an absolute must in modern developments, in my opinion, because far too often it doesn't help matters that are already an issue. One thing I did notice on the plans, though, is that there's no bungalows for elderly or disabled residents that might move on to this development. That leaves I think there's 8 houses in the bottom left of the plan, which are coloured blue, or at least on the plan that I'm looking at. They do have a downstairs bedroom. However, 4 of the houses have a short walk from the parking spaces down to the house. Is that something that we can ask the developer to reconsider, given that the downstairs bedrooms on these houses are really the only option on the site for disabled residents? Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I can see the 2 short terraces of 4 bungalows each. And Chair, as you can see, 4 of the properties have parking immediately in front of them. The other 4, it looks, I think 2 of the bungalows would probably be about 10 metres between the nearest parking space and the front of the bungalow, or the furthest bungalow. I must admit, when I looked at the layout, it looked fairly close, and they're not necessarily limited to people who may have a disability. They are bungalows which would be marketed for sale, and would be suitable for a range of potential occupants. So overall, I felt that the relationship between the parking and the bungalows was convenient.
Okay, thanks, Charles. Sam, do you want to come back on that? Or are you happy with that answer?
I'm happy with that answer. It was just one thing that I thought might want raising, just whether or not extra parking spaces could be put in closer to these houses. But thanks for your response, Charles.
Okay, thanks, Sam. Bill?
Yep, thanks, Chair. Thanks, Charles, for your report. Very good. I see County Council Highways had a couple of concerns, but they've been addressed, like the collection points to the refuse between 1 point and 4 plots. They've been resolved. But on page 18, they seem to have 2 outstanding details requiring clarification. They are the carriageway and footway details, especially showing the preamble, paving, utilities accommodation and lighting design specification required. Have these been addressed, or are we still ongoing with these?
Chair, they're still ongoing. One of the things which seems to have happened is that there's been some confusion in the sense that we've had 2 applications submitted at the same time. One is the reserved matters application, which is before you today. The other one was an application which required to submit further details required by planning conditions on the outline. And this included details of street lighting and construction details of the roads. And we're not at the stage of concluding that application yet.
Okay.
So in terms of this application, we have enough information to determine it, but those very detailed matters such as street lighting, they're still being worked on.
Okay, that's fine, Charles. And just another thing before I go, is the 106 agreement, has that been signed? Has that been done to stop parking on the highway to London Road, to restrict that?
The 106, the 106 was a requirement at the outline stage. And one of the things that required was that the developer was required to fund, or at least contribute financially to the cost of the traffic management measures, which are basically parking restrictions. So there's no new 106 required at this stage. It's already been agreed.
That's fine, Charles. Well, you've answered that for me, and I welcome this because we welcome houses. We need houses, and it's in the local plan, so I certainly welcome it. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you. Anybody else? No. Have I got a mover and a seconder, please?
I move the recommendation, Chair.
I'll second it.
Thank you very much. Well, it's been moved and seconded, the recommendation for granting with conditions. So, Paula, can you take a roll call, please?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Councillor Anne Thompson.
For.
Colin Thompson.
For.
Aswad.
For.
Burley.
For.
Edwards.
For.
Gorn.
For.
Husband.
For.
McEwen.
For.
Mooney.
For.
Morgan.
For.
Knott.
For.
And Ronson.
For.
That's unanimously carried, Chair.
Right, thank you. Charles, you've moved your ironing board. It was a nice little ornament in your background there.
I was trying to do it discreetly, Chair.
Oh, well, eagle eyes, you see, we've got eagle eyes. Right, thanks very much. Right, we'll move on to our last application, which is a summer house in Pleasant, Danegill. And this is retrospective. We don't like retrospective planning applications, but it's here. So who's doing this one, please?
Myself again, Chair.
Thanks, Charles.
If I could ask members to scroll down to page 150, that's the electronic page. Just a few pages from the very end of the document. And that should take you to a page that shows the elevations and plan of the summer house.
Mm-hmm.
It's a long rectangular building we have objections to this, Chair. One from the adjacent resident, but one from Councillor Hall, and his comments are included in the report. And the concerns which have been expressed is that the development is out of scale with the proportions of the back garden, and also the loss of a hedgerow that has taken place, so a section of hedgerow. Well, Chair, if one looks at the top left of the drawing, you should see a site layout plan, and it shows the house itself, which is on Danefield Park, a large modern house, and it shows the proposed summer house on the left-hand side. The impact has been assessed. The impact in terms of the neighbours has been assessed, and it meets some lighting requirements, and privacy meets the 21 metres. So it meets the standard tests. There is an element of subjectivity about these things, Chair, whether something is in scale or not. And while the building is large, in old money, it is over 50 feet long. In terms of the size of the rear garden, it does seem to be reasonably accommodated within the garden. And really on that basis, the recommendation is for approval. And sorry, just one final point. The recommendation does require, by means of a planning condition, the replanting of the section of hedge which has been removed. So based upon all those factors, Chair, the recommendation is for approval.
Could it be turned into a house, Charles?
Well, it wouldn't lend itself to a house, in the sense it's in the property's back garden with quite limited access to it. But that would require a separate permission anyway. To turn it into a new dwelling would require a separate planning permission.
But could somebody actually live in it? Has it got running water and electricity?
Well, I think size-wise, it would be capable of being lived in, but it's not applied for on that basis. It's applied for as a summer house, and it would require a separate permission to be used as an independent dwelling.
So could we condition it, or because obviously if they've built it already without coming for planning permission, they're they might not know that they could not let the grandson live in it or something without a separate permission. I just want to take honest, Charles.
Well, that could be made clear in correspondence, but as I say, it's been explained to us by them that it's a garden room or a summer house, and as I say, Chair, that it would need a separate permission to turn it into a dwelling. I think that what I would suggest the main concern is it overdevelopment or not in terms of the size of the garden. And as I say, if you look at the location plan, the site layout plan, this building, which is quite large, I think in many cases it would need two gardens to fit it in, but in this case, it does seem to fit in reasonably well with the proportions of the garden. But as I say, Chair, there's an element of subjectivity about these matters.
Okay, thanks, Charles. Sam?
Thank you, Chair. Just on your own point, Anne, about habitability, doesn't look as though there's any plumbing or drainage, and certainly no bathroom on the plan. So maybe it couldn't be habitable anyway. But Charles, I had a question about one thing that's mentioned on the plans. It says that there's an existing concrete base. Was there a structure there before, or is that a base that was put in before they built the structure?
Chair, I understand that the base was put in for this building.
Thanks, Charles. Do you know if there was a structure in there on there? Well, obviously it's retrospective, this, so we don't know what it's replaced, do we?
I'm not aware that there was a building before, and as I say, the proposal is not to reuse a base used for another building. It's a base which has been put in for the building before you today.
Okay, thank you. That's slightly misleading then on the plans that have been submitted, I think. But thank you anyway.
Thanks, Sam. Bill?
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, just 2 points. Hedge growth is getting cut down. Is the neighbour who objected, is he happy with what's been said, that it's okay, it's going to be replanted again? Is he happy with that? And the other point was, Councillor Hall, did he have a personal private site visit to this place? I mean, he's asking for a virtual site visit. I don't think we need one after we've looked at the report. But just for clarification, that's all. Thank you, Charles.
I'm not certain on either of those points, I'm afraid, Chair. I'm not sure whether the neighbour is happy in that sense, but of course the section of hedgerow has been removed, and the only thing that we can do is to require that it's put back as part of a planning condition. So we have sought to address it as much as we can. And the matter about Councillor Hall, I don't know whether he visited the site. He has made some quite detailed comments expressing his concerns. And those concerns are reproduced in the committee report.
Okay, fine, Charles. Thank you very much. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Daniel?
Yeah, just a quick one. It's just on the back of that comment about site visits. It's difficult to judge the scale of the development on the paperwork itself. Is it worth doing a virtual site visit so we can have more visual, really, in scale, you know, with the size of the garden, the property, and linking to the neighbour as well? Because obviously that's one issue that was raised. Because without a visual, it can be sort of difficult, you know, from looking at scale sort of generally.
I think it would be a matter for the committee to decide.
I don't know if that's a possibility.
No idea. It would be up to the officers to do that. I've got no problem with the application as it is, as long as it's not going to be turned into a dwelling.
I totally agree, and I don't think we need a visual site. Yeah, I move the recommendation with the conditions. I do.
I'll recommend that, Anne.
Are you seconding it? Oh, sorry, if you can hear my grandson screeching at the top of his voice at the upstairs, I'm is that seconded?
Yeah, Anita seconded it. Yeah, I proposed it.
It is.
Chair, you're on mute. Do you want me to take the roll call?
I just wanted to see if Daniel wanted to move an amendment to be voted on first about a
Okay.
That was all.
It was just sort of the comment really, because I didn't know if cause I know back on the back of Councillor Hall's comment about the scale and the size. So not necessarily, because if the committee sort of generally thinks we don't need one, it was just sort of a general comment really to see whether there was any sort of further bits.
Okay, thanks, Daniel. Do you want to take a roll call, Paula, please?
Thanks, Chair. So Councillor Anne Thompson,
For.
Colin Thompson,
For.
Aswad,
For.
Burley,
For.
Edwards,
For.
Gone,
For.
Husband,
For.
McEwen,
For.
Mooney,
For.
Morgan,
For.
Knott
For.
and Ronson.
For.
That's unanimously carried, Chair.
Oh, come on. Right, thank you very much for your attendance. That's the end of the meeting. And we'll see you next time.